I think the resilience, like having to build resilience in, I believe in me. I'm going to make it happen. It doesn't matter the naysayers. It doesn't matter the people that say that you're probably not going to make it happen. Or even the finances don't matter. The logistics on how you're going to make it happen, they don't matter. You're going to figure it out.
There is rarely a life untouched by hardship or challenge. On this podcast, we invite our guests to share their very personal stories. We harness the wisdom and resilience of our guests, which has shaped who they are today.
Carl Rogers said, "That which is most personal is in fact most universal." Together we'll be inspired to embrace the resilience in our own stories and to gain strength in the face of adversity and have a few laughs along the way.
Hi, I'm Donna.
And I'm Di. We are the Double Ds and welcome to the Discovery Diaries.
We acknowledge the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation as the traditional custodians of the land on which we are recording this podcast. We pay our respects to the elders past and present and acknowledge their spiritual connection to family and storytelling.
Both Donna and Di were born here on these lands. We are grateful to draw on the culture of telling and sharing stories, and we hope that you will draw inspiration from the stories that are shared here. Today in our podcast we hear from Neo Correa. From the age of 14, where she was living in Venezuela, she was captivated by the idea of life in Australia, especially as an out queer woman. Without resources or a plan, just a dream, she set her sights on making that dream a reality. Her journey, as we'll hear, is one marked by sheer determination and hard work. It was fuelled by the vision of a life down under, and although it took her 10 years, she achieved this dream, and it was much more than just about relocation. We're going to hear how she created the life she envisaged for herself, and now, after a decade in Australia, has turned that dream into reality. It's a story of the power of resilience, the importance of chasing what seems impossible, and the beauty of building a life on one's own terms. We know you're going to love it.
Neo, buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes. Muchas gracias.
I've been learning Spanish for about 3 months, so
Donna, your talents
practice.
never end.
That's it. So Neo is from Venezuela originally, and there's actually a very interesting story about how I met Neo. I met Neo, interestingly, in a sauna, and we both went to a challenge to do a cold plunge. And we both did the cold plunge, and then we were in the sauna, and I got chatting about how Neo is from Venezuela and your sort of move to Australia. So I think that would be a great place to start. Neo, do you want to tell us about your growing up in Venezuela and how you ended up in Australia?
Yeah, definitely. It was actually a random decision. I think I was looking at bathing suits or something like that. Probably it was bathing suits because I came across a Quicksilver Roxy brand, and I was like, oh, this brand is cool. Where is it from? And Australia came around, like that name. I was like, oh, what is this place? Oh, it's beautiful beaches. It's surfer life. That sounds awesome. Mm-hmm. What kind of culture do they have? Oh, they are very open-minded. They love immigrants. Like they are happy to bring people from all different parts of the world. So I was like, this is sounding too good. Maybe I'll look into it a little bit more. So then I looked at kangaroos, fauna. Everything looks so awesome. And I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. And I told my mom, 14-year-old, saying to her mom, I think I'm going to go to the other side of the world and I want to spend my adult life there. I want to live on my own and I want to do it really far away from my family. She's like, what is this? What are you saying? Sure, kid. It's okay. You can move around to the other side of the world. I'm like, you'll see that I'll make it happen. And since then, I remember I did a jar of like putting change money and going Australian money. I don't think I ever counted how much was in that change money, but it was a goal. It was a dream. It was a goal of I'm going to achieve in my life what I want to achieve in my life. And then I kept obviously doing research. I was like, oh, I want to live in Sydney because come on, the Opera House. But then Sydney wasn't as exciting as Melbourne because Melbourne had more art and culture. And I was like, okay, well, let's see how that goes. You can decide a little bit later. You don't have to make this decision when you're 15. Now you have to buy a ticket. You have to decide where you're going to live. Have you ever lived on your own? Probably not. You little, I don't know what you're thinking that you are, but let's think about it. You figure out how you're going to make it happen. So then, that was in the back of my mind. I even went to university going, what I'm going to study. I think Australia is looking for accountants. Maybe I'll study accounting.
Wow. So what was it when you were so young, 14 years old, Neo, that made you think, I want to leave my country and go and live across the other side of the world, like to have such a strong dream?
Yeah, so I think part of it was wanting to feel independent. So family, and I guess the culture in Venezuela is also very family-orientated, and we all have to do it together, helping each other out, do things for each other towards a bigger goal. And I always wanted to be independent. I always wanted to do the things just because I could do it. And I love to help, but I was always the person to be, let me do it by myself. So wanting to be independent, and also this is also the time that I figured out that I was gay. So the queerness came around, and culture in Venezuela is very close-minded, and it was difficult actually to hear how people talked about queer people. And I'm not very comfortable at hiding. Like I'm really open, and I always share what I think and what I want. So it was really difficult for me to be like speak about my gayness and be a lesbian in Venezuela. So I was like, okay, maybe if I go to a place that is a bit more open-minded, that has different mentality, and I'll be on the other side of the world. No one will know me. I'll be independent.
So now you're about 14, 15, and about the same time that you're thinking about Australia moving independence, you're also recognising, okay, I'm gay, I'm queer, and I know the culture that I'm in that's not very accepting of that. Did you keep that to yourself at the time, or did you share it with anyone?
No, I definitely kept it for myself. It was actually, I went to a big depression that I wasn't sure what it was. And I was crying in school, and people were like, what's going on with this kid? And it got to a point that I just had a light bulb. It's like, you're crying because you want to be independent, and you're a gay person, and you don't like hiding. And everyone else is having their boyfriends. Everyone else is doing the things that they want to do. And you have to put yourself in a box and not say anything. So, yes, it's difficult.
And can I ask, what were you really conscious of? Because I imagine that there'll be things that you were unconscious, that some of those societal things. But at 14, 15, what were you conscious of that actually it wasn't a safe place to share that?
I think even the conversation, it was a sin. All the thoughts that I had were sinful. But also like the shame for my family, shame for myself. But I didn't feel shameful. So I felt very excited. I remember looking at movies and watching dances and like different kind of arts that also made me be like, oh, different cultures are more open-minded. They actually show these kind of relationships. So maybe what I need to do is be in a place that is open to these kind of relationships that it's more aligned with what I feel. Be more open-minded, being able to be free and not having this shame that I don't feel at all because I feel very happy. So the light bulb moment of like, actually what makes me happy is being myself, and being myself is being gay. So I'm probably going to look for something that is going to continue to keep me happy. That actually got me out of my depression because I was conscious. I understood what it was that was making me so unhappy.
And did you come to that, again, because you sound like a very independent person, did you come to that consciousness yourself, or did you come out of the depression by speaking to others, or was there some strategies or anything that helped you through?
I think at that point, even going to therapy was shameful. Probably still is. To an older culture in South America, it is a bit shameful to talk about your feelings, to talk about a psychologist, to talk about all these things. So I think it was more me searching, probably online, reading, research, going to places where people feel comfortable being themselves. And I was like, okay, it's not me. It's just the place that I'm in and the culture that I'm surrounded by. So maybe if I change that or I shift that a little bit, then I can be okay. So then I guess my goal to come to Australia then became more important because I was like, now I want my culture to be accepting. And if Australia is going to be the place that I like, then I just need to make it happen. So let's work on that. Let's put the steps. Let's make a plan. Let's get the resources because, girl, you don't have any money. So go and figure out how do you do it.
How you did do it, because it took you around 10 years to be able to come out. So you were about around 24 when you did come out?
Yes. So I did my studies in accounting. I told my bosses in my first place that I worked at as an accountant or as a trainee accountant, I said, I'm going to give you my all. I'm going to work really hard, but I'm going to leave and go to Australia. So please don't put a 20-year plan in Neo because Neo is not going to be here. Again, I'm very passionate about being open with people and showing, look, I'm going to give you my all. This is the time frame. How do we make this a relationship that is going to work for you and it's going to work for me as well? This is not going to be a one-sided thing. And this was on my first job as an 18-year-old. And that's what I kept doing from my professional career. I think I started doing photocopies in a company, and then I ended up managing the accounts department there. And that was within that time frame. Doing my studies to finalize the accounting degree and also working at the same time.
This podcast is brought to you by my business, Coming Up for Air. That's Coming Up number 4, Air. This is a business which cultivates curiosity, compassion and courage through executive coaching, workshops and leaders' retreats. Donna, you've been to one of my retreats.
Yes, and as a senior leader, I decided to invest in myself and go for a day. It was on the weekend, a full day retreat. I'm so glad I did go. It was just what I needed in my life at that time. We spent time on our own, reflecting on questions that you gave us, Di. We spent time with others there, being creative, which I don't often get the chance to do in everyday life. And my absolute favourite part was spending some time with the horses that were on the property. The horses have such a calming effect, and I just left the retreat feeling completely rejuvenated and had time to think about some important life questions that you don't usually take the time out to think about.
Thanks, Donna, and I didn't pay her to say that. I do run retreats at various times through the year, which are open retreats, ideal for leaders, just as you said, Donna, to get away from the busyness of work and life, and often we don't take this time to invest in ourselves. You can find me on Instagram or at comingup4air.com. I'm really struck, Neo, by that, the way that you approach and show up in any of those interactions. That I want to be authentic, I want to be aligned, and also it shows up at work with me saying, I want to be totally honest about this. I want to go into this working relationship at 18 totally upfront about, and I'm wondering what that was like in terms of the impact that it had on, say, the boss's relationship. What was their response to that?
Yeah, at the start, I don't think people are used to having these kind of conversations. So at the start, it was very like, well, why am I going to give you things if you're going to leave me? So then I had to reframe the conversation and explain, well, this is a two-side relationship. This is not just about you. This is something that needs to work for everyone. So how do we make that happen? Then I had to sit down and have a conversation and say, well, actually, what do you expect of a person working in this kind of role? And how can I demonstrate that I can be that person for you? But also, how can you help me in the goals that I have in my life? So, and I think every relationship that I approach it that way how are we helping each other? This is not a one-sided. I don't want it to be all about me, and I don't want it to be all about you. I want to exchange of ideas, of growth, of everything.
And it sounds to me, Neo, that you never, ever doubted for 1 minute that you were definitely going to be moving to Australia at some point, which I find quite extraordinary for someone who was that young to have such sort of determination, but also absolute certainty that that was what was going to happen. Is that how you did feel at the time?
Definitely, 100%. And it actually makes me, very emotional because everyone around me was saying, come on, kid, 14, Australia, other side of the world, on your own? What are you talking about? But no, it was actually like I had the conviction. I knew that I was going to make it happen. And I believe in myself as well. So
I was just something that we saw the other night was the absolute main person that has to believe you can do something is you. And if you can believe it, then you're the one that can make it happen. And then eventually others will start believing you. And that sounds like exactly what you did at a very young age.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I can also really hear and see, our listeners can't see maybe the tears, but we can feel and see and, really sense that there's a lot of emotion as you reflect on it. Am I picking up that there's it must have been quite a lonely place to be, that you're the only one with that conviction, or is the emotion about something else?
Probably the loneliness, but also I think the resilience, like having to build resilience in, I believe in me. I'm going to make it happen. It doesn't matter the naysayers. It doesn't matter the people that say that you're probably not going to make it happen. Or even the finances don't matter. The logistics on how you're going to make it happen, they don't matter. You're going to figure it out. You're going to have to work at it. You're going to have to put the steps. You're going to have to do the things, plan the things that are going to take you there, and make it happen. So it had to be resilient, but also, I guess, the loneliness also brings a part of it. That is what makes it emotional because, And also it's not something that would happen just when I was a kid, right? It also happened when I got to Australia because then when I reached the country, then I'm the person that doesn't speak the language perfectly, right? So then you have to learn another language. You have to learn how to communicate with people. You have to... Again, I had a profession. I came to Australia to study English. So then I couldn't work as an accountant. So then I had to do other kind of things. I had to do cleaning jobs. I had to do working in a bar, which was awesome. I'm not going to lie.
I bet that improved your English pretty quick.
Yes.
Pulling pints. And,
Well, it was actually a strategy. So not many things I do without... thinking a little bit about it.
That impression, Neo. There's always a strategy and a plan with you.
I was thinking, how do I get myself out there and talk to people? There's nothing better than talking to drunk people. They're not going to remember you. They're going to slur their words, so you're going to have to really pay attention to see what it is that they're saying. And there's a funny story. The first night that I worked in a bar, someone was asking me for a glass of water, and I said water that way, right? So when an Australian came and said water, I was like, I have no idea what you're asking me. I'm sorry. What is it? And I had to ask it 10 times before I understood. That person just needed a glass of water. How embarrassing. But I had to learn. I had to do different things and I had to pivot. I had to change the way that I dealt with life.
How did you feel when you first arrived in Australia? So you did go to Melbourne, did you?
I did. Yeah. So the first place that I moved to was Victoria, so I moved to Melbourne.
When you actually arrived in Australia, did you think?
I think I had my rose-colored glasses. I was like, everything is perfect. Every single part of this place is just amazing.
Even all the drunk people.
Yeah, even all the drunk. Everyone was awesome. I did feel, I don't know if it was because I was excited, that I was like, hey, very excited to people, and people were so nice to me. So that was awesome. It was a good welcoming in the country.
You had been working towards that for 10 years.
Yes, correct.
And then to actually your dream, which you were dead certain would happen, did happen.
Correct.
So it's must have been quite an amazing feeling.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting. I think probably, where was it? I think it was at the river, like overlooking at the city. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know that this river was here, but it looks so good. I'm going to make it like a staple in my life. Every time I feel good, I'm going to come back to this river to say, I did it.
Oh, well done.
Yeah.
Wow. And how was it leaving your country and leaving your family? And
that was also hard. You're going to make me cry this entire podcast.
We don't mean to, but are you okay at the moment?
No,
because we can stop at any time.
No, I'm okay. I do. This is something about me as well. I cry all the time. My partner is like, "Are you going to talk about your life? Oh, you're going to cry the entire time." And I'm like, "Yeah."
What we love about crying, and like we're laughing and we're crying, and kind of it all belongs.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely. It's valid. It's authentic. Yeah. It's the feeling that is there. So and I feel comfortable talking to you guys. So
you carry on and cry.
I mean, the mic might not be very happy with that, but we'll see. We'll see how we go.
Mm-hmm. So you were just saying about how when you did leave, what it was like.
Yeah, that was hard. I didn't want to leave my family.
Yeah.
I can really relate to that, having lived for 21 years in one country and moving to the UK and then spending nearly 30 years there and then moving back. And I don't know about you, but I feel like I've got two homes.
Yeah.
And that will always be
Definitely. Definitely. And every time I visit my family, I'm like, it's the best of both worlds, right? Like I have you guys here. I can come visit you, spend some time with you, and I can go and be back at my home. So I can share this experience. I'm lucky enough that I get to travel. I didn't do it. Obviously, we were all locked up with COVID, but I try my best to go and see them as often as I can.
I saw a very interesting art exhibition a couple of years ago, and it was a woman that lives half her life in Europe and half her life in Australia. And she had some very interesting artworks because it was sort of like she's got two lives and she feels very blessed to have the two lives in the two different countries. But there is a part of her that is always sort of torn, like when she's here she misses everything over there and vice versa. And I think that's kind of the blessing and the curse of that, you know.
Yeah, you have the experience of both and you miss both, but they also make you the person that you are as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about, there's many things we could talk about, Neo, but what would you like to share with our listeners, I guess, around where courage has really shown up for you, particularly since you've come to Australia?
Yeah. Well, I think especially with career path, I think it took courage for me to be okay with leaving my career behind and starting something new. Yes, my first job was in a bar and I worked my way up from never working in a bar before to working my way up to managing the bar, right? So I had to let myself be okay with the decisions that I made, the places that I was at, the teachings that I had from life. Like that place taught me so much, the relationships that I have from the places that I've been. It is hard work. Sometimes you have to let go of the things that you created as an identity and then be resilient enough to pick up something new, to start something that is actually going to make you happier, to take the leap and decide it's okay. It's okay to let go and it's okay to move towards the things that are going to be better for your life and take away the expectations from people as well. Because, you were a big shot accountant. And what happened to you? I'm like, here we go again. All the judgment and all the thoughts of this is where you should be or this is what you should do. I'm like, no, it's okay for me to do the things that I want to do.
There's a lot of shoulds in life, right?
Yeah.
And some of those shoulds I think come from what people actually say.
Yeah.
Like, shouldn't you be doing something more sensible or more normal or whatever the should is? And then other of those shoulds come from internally, which is from myself, right?
Yeah.
What should I be, the shoulds that I place on myself.
Yeah.
And I'm always struck by, because I do a lot of coaching, that internal narrative is often the thing that actually we have to is really fused with our identity a lot of the time. But it seems to me again that you were really prepared to recreate your identity.
Yeah.
And that's hugely courageous to keep doing that.
Yeah. I don't know if that's part of my personality as well, that I like to be open and not close any windows. I like to experiment. I like to try different things and see what's actually going to make me tick and make me excited. that also changes over time. I can continue to work in finances, and it makes me very, very excited every time I talk about a business and how does it work and how do people influence their business and what makes a leader a great leader. That makes me super passionate. So yes, maybe I was outside the accounting for a little while, but I was just trying different industries and figuring out how business worked. And yeah, it continues to make me very excited. So I think it's just, I like to pivot and I like to put myself out there.
I find that, especially the older you get, you look back and all these experiences that didn't seem like they were totally linked or related, and then, you'll get a job and you'll be like, oh, that job I had actually really helps with this aspect, and things kind of tie together.
Yeah. And also how you make them as well, because having the expectation that this is going to work in this way, and if it doesn't work in this way, I'm going to be upset or it's just not going to be worth it. For me, the way that I look at things is very positive-minded and just going, if this wasn't what you expected, what are you actually gaining? Because you're still gaining something. You're still learning. You're still achieving something. So maybe pivot the idea that you have for that job, for that relationship, for that friendship, for whatever. How do you pivot it and make it, take away the good things, take away the growth, take away the things that are going to take you to your next step? Because there's always going to be a next step until there isn't, I guess. But
and it's that, if you look at Carol Dweck's research, it's all about growth mindset and what enables people to move to that positive reframe that you seem able to do. Or it's what it sounds like, it served you really well when you do that.
Yeah.
But I wonder, is it always easy for you to do that?
I don't think.
That's a relief.
No.
I kind of, you're going higher on the pedestal there.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, surely not all the time.
I'm still a normal human that have feelings and it has to struggle. And it's also, like you said, in hindsight, there was things to learn from there. Probably at the time I was like, oh, this place sucks. But when you move through it, and I guess you do have to make a little bit of effort in going, yeah, you're feeling maybe not the best right now. So how are you going to pivot it? What can you see that is good? Not ignore all the bad, but pivot it. Let's focus in the things that are going to take you to where you want to be.
This episode is brought to you by Spotify. It's the premium platform for listening to all great things, including podcasts, music, and if you follow this link and sign up as a premium member, it would really support us to continue to bring you great stories. The link is donnasbalconyviews.com.au /double-ds-podcast. We'll share that link in the show notes, but we would love you to join us on Spotify. If you're not already a premium member, it's a wonderful opportunity to be part of a premium platform that is going to bring you lots of stories for us all to be impacted by.
So after you worked in the bar, managing the bar, what kind of pivots have you done since then, and how did you end up living in WA?
The WA decision was COVID, and then I came to freedom and the sunshine, and I was like, why am I living in Melbourne with this cold weather? I'm a Caribbean girl. What are you doing?
So you saw the light, literally.
Yes, literally saw the light, ocean. I was like, okay, this is definitely a better place for me. And in regards to work, I actually pivoted to different things. I worked in a restaurant. I worked in Harvey Norman. I worked for a pizzeria doing pizza. Like, I did so many different things. I was like, okay, you've done all the things that you wanted to achieve. You talked to people. You were selling. You were achieving the language that you wanted to achieve. Now what? Now what's your excuse to not do the things that are actually going to make you happy? When are you going to start working in finance again, in the corporate world? When are you going to be leading women? Because this is your goal, right? So when are you going to do that? So then I pivoted. I started working in a law firm, and that was excellent because the leadership that I saw in that place was the standard that I want to see in most places. Being surrounded by women that support each other, that want to empower people around them. It was so exciting. And I was like, okay, now I just need to take this and make it an Australian, South American goal. Let's work in empowering women and making sure that, leadership works in supporting each other and making us grow.
Do you know, Neo, when I hear you talk, that it strikes me that, we hear a lot about all sorts of ways that women are not empowered. And and also how far we are sometimes still behind in terms of gender pay gap and all the things that women might experience. So to hear that good news story, but also very specifically in terms of what was modelled to you, I think we need more of those encouraging stories where really good practice exists as well. So often we're coming from that deficit place.
Yes.
But here when you moved into back into finance, back into more of that professional career.
Yeah.
Not that I'm saying pizzas is not a professional career, but, but to hear the really good news stories, I think we also need to surface those as well.
Yeah. And it's what shaped the person that I am today, right? And again, everything that has happened and all the struggles, because also finding a job wasn't easy because I have a very long name. So then I had to shorten it for Australians to be able to call me and say my name.
Tell us what your big long name is.
Neorangel is a full name. That's probably what you're going to find in socials as well. Yeah, I had to pivot. I had to figure out a way to make myself work. And being supported, being around women that empowered me and gave me a chance and were happy to go like, yeah, here you go, try it. It's changed, and it's changed the way that I approach life now. Because I'm like, now I just need to support other people as well. I need to help other people. So that's the chip as well, that you go one by one. Okay, how am I helping this team? How am I helping this person that I just met? Why did I meet this person randomly? Maybe there is...
In a sauna.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It was interesting because in the sauna, Neo was saying that she doesn't have that much experience in public speaking at the the And so I said, well, I've got a good forum that you can try.
You didn't warn me about the crying, though. That was left out.
I think we need to put that as a health warning now.
Yeah, it's good because you're welcome and I feel comfortable having these conversations with you guys.
So what are your vision, I suppose? Have you got particular goals that you're working toward now, Neo?
Yeah, so there's two things that I'm really passionate about. The first one is creating a community for, and this might be more specific, a community for queer and women, queer people, women, specifically women of color. I find that I'm missing the person that has an accent. I can't really see that person having public speaking, having that leadership ability, having the idea to empower others. So because I can't see it, I said, well, maybe I can start. And then some other people can jump in the wagon. So creating a community for this group of people to empower them, to help them in their financial advances, like how do we move from being an immigrant that has no money, possibly struggling with finding a job, how do we move from that to owning a house, having a puppy, married life.
Oh, my God,
Happy
a puppy
life.
as well. You didn't tell me you were a dog lover.
Yeah. So helping people just achieve whatever it is that they want to achieve in their life.
So that was the first one?
That's the first one.
Yeah.
And the second one, I can't take away the accounting degree. Mm-hmm. So businesses and finance will always be a part of my life. I am so excited every time I see a balance sheet or a P&L to figure out if a company is working and how does it work and what are they doing. So I also want to work in an investment fund led by women that also support and invest in women-led businesses.
Amazing. So, like, where would people be able to find you if they were interested in either of those aspects? So the community side,
Yeah.
giving you a job in an investment company or in a VC company.
Yeah.
Where would people reach out to you?
So on LinkedIn, the name is Neo Correa.
We'll put it
I might
in the
need
show
to spell
notes.
it, yeah. And on Instagram as well, at Neorangel, the full name. That one I'm not going to change. Special that I'm the only one that has that name, so I'm going to keep that.
Why should you change your name? Quite right.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, if you were, if there's people listening today that are kind of either struggling because they're realising they're gay or they've recently come into Australia or another country and especially from a non-English speaking background, what sort of advice would you give, given, you've been here now for how many years have you been here now?
10 years now.
10 years.
Well,
so.
close to 10. 9 and 8 months or something.
Is there any sort of thoughts you would give those people just based on your journey and what you've been through?
Definitely. I feel, one, find your community, your people, very important. Finding the people that are going to make you be you. And sometimes that's hard. Especially with the language barrier, but it's all about trying. I find all the great relationships that I've had just by trying random things that I never thought that I would try, and then a great friendship or a great business relationship or a great mentor, a great person to meet and come to a podcast, right? Like you never know what's going to happen. So put yourself out there. Never be ashamed to be who you are, whether that is being gay, or you have a weird accent that people ask you twice what you're saying. It's okay. You can repeat yourself a couple of times and you'll get there. It's all about practice and trying to...
It sounds like karma to me with all the drunk people that you've listened to and asked them to repeat things.
That too.
And I also think I was having this discussion with someone just the other day that, you might come here and think you can't speak English as well as other people, but I always think, there's all these people that speak more than one language. I mean, so many people that were born in Australia only speak English, and I think it's just such an asset to know another language. I think it's something to be proud of, and
the amount of people that you can talk to, it's exponential then.
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely, yeah. All right, well, Neo, is there anything else that you wanted to add or share?
No, just thank you for the space. It feels very lovely and warm to talk to you guys. So I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
We've loved having you and meeting you a little bit, and we'll share how people can stay in touch with you and your journey, Neo. And we look forward to staying in touch as well and seeing what happens next as you pivot and keep pivoting, as I'm sure that you will.
I'm sure that I will too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Di, how did you feel when Neo said she's absolutely passionate about and loves balance sheets and financial statements? Could you relate to that?
I couldn't even keep a straight face. I was like, balance sheets? You must be joking. That would be my absolute worst nightmare. And I wanted to embrace her and say, please come and do my balance sheets.
I thought it's good that someone likes balance sheets.